You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello, and welcome again to the Monster Sci-Fi Show. I am your host, The Monster, and yes, it has been quite some time since I did my last podcast. In fact, it's been since, October 2020? But in fairness, I have been busy at my library. So the normal podcast that I would have been doing, I focus all that energy into doing lots of Zoom programs. One of them was doing a Dune Book Club, which you're going to be hearing the first part, but it's more about an introduction to the world of Dune. So you will hear a whole bunch of people, including Mr. Gene, talking about why Dune is great, and then what I plan to do, as you can hear I'm outside, but you can't see me, but what I plan to do in the next couple of months, over the several months I should say, we're going to release another part of the podcast that we did for Dune Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3. So today being, again, a prelude to Dune, and then the next 3 months after that, you'll get one new podcast of the book. So if you want to read the book itself, you have the option to dive into the book at your own pace because it's a podcast, but it will be released, as far as my podcast, once a month. So again, we're doing book 1, 2, and 3 separately over 3 months, starting next month. But in any case, I'm going to now shut up and turn it over to the podcast or the Zoom call that we recorded about why Dune is great. And the first person speaking is going to be Heather.
Do you guys want to start and talk about what brought us here today, or what friends peer pressured us into? How much do you love this person?
I need my insulin to live. Please give it to me now, Monty.
I did not peer pressure anyone. Just spammed forever.
Just be like,
well, let's do this. Just so we could just formally do an introduction. Mm-hmm. So I'll start off with me. My name is Montgomery.
My name is Heather. Eugene, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Eugene. I know very little to nothing about Dune. Monty, it's been one of Monty. I've known Monty for over 20 years. For years, Monty's been trying to get me into this thing. He's given me copies of the movie. He's explained it to me. I've gotten the audiobook, but I've never been able to crack it. I've never taken an interest in it for some reason. And that's weird to me because I know Star Trek, I know Star Wars, I know all the others, most of the other sci-fi worlds, but I can't crack this. So I'm here to try and hopefully get my interest in this going. That's all, I guess.
That's kind of how I feel like that's usually how it goes for a lot of people. So I'll introduce myself really quick. I'm Rebecca, and basically for my entire childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood, Dune was my mom's favorite series. That's her one obsession. And I was telling this to Monty and Heather. Some people are deeply obsessed with Star Wars, and to the point where they'll join the Jedi Church. If there was a Dune, I feel like my mom would have joined it. So it's very near and dear to her heart. I've only read really the first book, but I got so hyped for the upcoming the movie that got delayed that I'm kind of tackling the rest of the series. So yeah, thank you for joining us, everyone.
Okay, I guess I'm next. My name is Dion Mancy. I'm completely new to Dune, so take it easy on me, folks.
Dion watched the trailer 20 minutes ago. So
yeah, literally, that's all Dion see.
Right. So we'll put you there with Eugene. But hi, I'm Joe, and I'm a former bookseller. Love sci-fi since I was very, very young. And Dune is one of my favorite novels. So I am more than happy to be here. And both Montgomery and Gene, well, we all like to geek out, especially since we're older geeks.
Yeah. Okay, does anyone want to talk about like what got you interested into Dune? I know Rebecca shared a little bit about how it was her mother's favorite book. Monty, what got you into Dune? Like, what was your introductory to Dune?
Okay. Back in, I think before the movie or when the movie came out, my friend Brian in junior high school saw Dune, hated it. But he said, "You're going to love this movie because I know who you are. And this is going to be like, that's a thing."
David Lynch.
Watched it. And it is, if you know David Lynch and you know his style, you understand the weirdness of watching Dune. But it really kind of worked on me to the point like I'll read the book now that I know what the people look like, and it's almost like I almost wish we had that movie like right now, which hopefully we will in 2021.
You get half the movie. Yes.
Because they have yet to be done properly. I think the Sci-Fi Channel did a good enough job to kind of break up the series to explain a lot more things, but there's something about that campiness of that first one. If you love David Lynch and you know all his favorite actors are in that movie, there's something about that movie that you just cannot put down. And the Sci-Fi Channel put on a 4-hour version of that movie that has even more inner monologue. If you want more monologue, you have even more. And a whole new ending, or now whole new beginning that introduces like the world of Dune. So and that helps explains a lot to me because there's a lot more bugs we'll get into, but that's the basis of my love for Dune. I mean, granted, it's not as passionate as Star Trek and Star Wars, but really Dune is kind of like the basis for a lot of this. So but I'm glad
that was John Carter. Wasn't that John Carter?
It was multiple. Gene.
I would say it's very influential in many ways, in many respects, like with John Carter, you know. But the thing is, I forgot to mention that Gene and I also do a podcast. So this is kind of like in our wheelhouse, but not in our wheelhouse. So I'm glad that he is taking the leap, so to speak, to join us.
I'm following you. You're the lead. I'm here to learn.
Well, I'm glad
very little about this.
So Gary's asking, has anyone seen the documentary Jodorowsky? Is that how I say it?
Jodorowsky's Dune. He was the first director who attempted to make that movie. And the thing is that Jodorowsky, like many directors, will readapt something to his vision.
Maybe.
And he had a very particular vision for Dune. And he basically got he basically got all this all these different powerhouses together. I mean, he's the reason that we got the people to make Aliens and Blade Runner and a number of other movies.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like his. It was such an interesting concept, but the thing is, the movie was never made because it was just impossible to be made at the time. I mean, he wanted Salvador Dali to play the Emperor of the Universe.
Yeah. I remember that. I was like, that would have been a great movie, but also like really, really weird. Like the creation of Paul would have been different. But I'm really interested to see how the new movies play out. I was introduced to Dune a long time ago. I also was introduced to the 80s movie and the horrible, wonderful camp that it is. And I was like, why? And I asked all these questions, and then I got into the book and I started reading, and it started to kind of unfold. Every time you reread, you learn something more about the characters. I think I've gotten the furthest in the book because I am on book 3. And it gets weird. It gets weird, and it's lovely, and I love it. But it's so campy, and it's so much fun. Don't take it too seriously.
Well, the movie is. We were going to fight about
this. The book is a whole different story. Yeah.
The book is, to me, it is the predecessor to like great epics like Game of Thrones. It is like sci-fi getting the respect that it deserves because of the scope of it and kind of the very heavy themes that it explores. Like even for, well, I don't know, like it always surprises me to see that it was like published 1960s. Like
65, yeah.
1965, yeah.
So the character tropes are so iconic, and you see them in Game of Thrones. Duke Leto is Ned Stark. So if you've seen if you've seen Star Wars,
what a take!
Dune already, it's great.
Well,
and
Tatooine.
Today.
I mean, like, there's even another shout out with Star Wars. I mean, the Sarlacc pit is basically a throwback to the worms.
Yeah.
So, it was what came out in '65. It influenced pretty much all sci-fi afterwards. That's what made Dune so amazing. I got into it because of the movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I read the book first because, the movie's coming out. Let me see if I read the book first. And I was, I think, 14 at the time. And it's one of those novels I keep coming back to because Frank Herbert was just so able to capture so many nuances about being human that it's something when you go back to it, you're like, oh, I see. Especially when you bring that more experience to it. It's almost like, I have this better filter to see what he was attempting to talk about. That's, I think, what made the book so amazing. And to some people who've read the entire series, which I unfortunately have not,
I did.
I've read the prequels, but I haven't read beyond the original Dune novel, full novel, all 3 subbooks within it. Just how much he brings to it. Just these meta concepts, these tropes that he plays with within the book. That I'm like, wow. But yeah, I mean,
to some extent, like I feel like the Game of Thrones comparisons make sense because even by the time that like Game of Thrones was released, like the archetypal fantasy and the archetypal hero story, like that was a thing that was known by the 70s when Star Wars hit. So reading back, because I'm still like rereading the first Dune, it kind of does bring to mind that subversive aspect that Game of Thrones became like so well known for, where you have your tropes, but we're not just going to leave you with tropes. We're really going to have to explore the humanity of these characters. And it's something I also hadn't realized that I kind of like about Dune, in that there's like no real aliens, not the way that like
we envision
like a sentient alien, like I don't know if anyone here like plays Mass Effect, but to me that's like traditional space opera style. And you get to explore the different worlds and the different races, like alien species and what their lives are like and stuff like that. But with Dune, it's very much about humanity. So kind of like how the fantastical aspects of Game of Thrones are secondary to what it means for humanity.
Mm-hmm. I like the breakdown of the characters and how you get really attached to them, and then something terrible happens. Oh, great. And you're just like, what's going to happen? Oh, it's really great. And I love to see how they evolve over the course of the story, and whether or not, what's going to, are they going to rise to greatness? Is this hero cycle going to continue? How do we feel about that? And it's really interesting because I feel like he puts a lot of nuance into how they're broken down, what they're thinking about, and the struggles that they go through. There's a lot of angst in this book series, and I very much enjoy that.
For my 2 cents on that, when it comes to reading a book, the fact that there was a glossary at the end of the Dune novel,
yes,
it is intimidating right off the bat, because there are a lot of terms that I'm like, do I really need to go back and forth? You do almost, you have to, but that takes you out of the element. So I think watching the Dune movie helps to understand some of the concepts, so you don't have to refer constantly to that dictionary part. That's the thing I think I found intimidating. Aside from like, there's a map. What does that mean? Where's a glossary? I don't know what that means either. And then trying to delve into that.
Where are the people? Where are they going?
So
so many names.
You're just thrown into this universe and you really have no context. Not to say that you don't understand Star Wars or Star Trek, but they're a lot easier to grasp. Whereas this, sure, you have your protagonist and your antagonist, but it's a lot more. It's that universe world building that I've never felt or I've never read in that scope in a book.
Yeah.
So are we really pitching this to you, Eugene? I'm just wondering if, or you.
I'm listening to it. I already know some of it. I know. Again, I talked to my roommate, and I was like, my friend, I was like, what is it? And she's, oh, it's Game of Thrones in space, basically.
Yes.
You know, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. I recently watched that. I get that. But I'm just waiting for you guys to unfold the story for me, to give me context. So I don't have to go to that glossary so much in the back.
Well, the glossary is fun.
When I start to read it, I'm sure I'll be there with my notepad and my book and going back and forth, and it'll be fine. But please tempt me. Bring me into your universe. Tell me, unfold the magic in this book.
Well, it's in the book. There's a reading rainbow, Gene.
Sorry.
No, I'm not going to repeat that.
I mean, I realize this podcast, not podcast, pardon me, this Zoom has the subtitle of young adults. I'm not going to take umbrage with it, but I'm going to say I think that this is sort of like, let's make Star Wars and even Star Trek more young adults, and Dune is more of the adult book.
Yeah.
Because it has some of these nuances in it that I'm not going, as a young adult, when I first read it, I'm like, okay, this is interesting, but I didn't really note it. It's as I got older that I was able to understand, oh, this is what he's referencing. These are the nuances. And also the fact that his characters...
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was just simply saying the characterizations that he did, especially for the time. I mean, he did this in the mid-'60s. And he gave all of his characters very interesting agency, especially the women. Because in a lot of ways, the women in the books are the ones who were the catalysts. Because if Jessica had made one of the characters in the book,
yes,
Jessica, the wife, if she had made some different choices, the book would never have been made.
Yeah, I feel like Jessica is the catalyst that started off, because she's the one who decided to start everything, and we should go more into depth in that in a little bit. Monty, did you want to lead us with your PowerPoint and show us some of the fun aspects of like the game?
Yeah, let's do that.
The great world of Dune.
Yes, so let's get started.
Also, everybody say hi to Nancy, because I forgot to.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hello, Nancy.
I believe that might be your last name, but welcome.
Thank you.
South Miami's representing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm here as a patron, not as a librarian.
You made a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Awesome.
Very important.
Yes, Gene. PowerPoint.
Because we're professionals.
Yep.
Wait, I'll get my popcorn. Okay.
Yes. Snacks. It's very.
Oh, look, he's got the new font.
Get snacks and drinks.
Okay. I'm trying to see this myself, but I'm blocking myself. Let me just... Oh, not what I wanted to do. All right.
I love the original cover.
The
So,
original cover art is so nostalgic, and I love it. I love the font. I love how creepy it is. I love how everything takes place at night.
Okay.
This is really the book for the night owls.
yeah.
Represent. Okay.
So I believe this is the first edition cover for Dune.
Mhm.
And I'm going to talk about something that I got encountered with his son in regard to all these books. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So these are the first 6 books that Frank Herbert actually wrote out. And I believe Chapter House was somewhere in the, I was at 85? Do you know, Joe?
No, I think it's a little later. I think it was the early 90s. It was before he passed away. It was the last one he wrote.
Right. So,
Would have
but...
been 85.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So these are the initial books that he wrote. After his passing, his son, Brian, found that he had and outlines for this massive storyline that it gets even more, not so much confusing, but it becomes more massive because he has prequels and prequels of prequels and then interquels, which means are books within each of these 6 initial books. So I'm not sure, much like if you were watching Star Wars for the first time and you see the 6 movies, I don't count the new 3 as part of my 6.
Yeah. Be a hater, Monty. But we'll have a Star Wars event and we'll fight that out.
But when you have those 6 movies, how do you watch that movie? That series? Do you start with episode 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3, or do you do chronological of 1, 2, and 3? That's kind of where we would be in this crisis with Dune. Sure, we can do the initial 6 books, but then when you get into the expanded verse, there are books within each other of the 6 that I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. So that's something down the road we can discuss. But let me just go into the next screen just so you can see. All of these are pretty much going to be before Dune begins.
Yeah, explaining the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't even do it justice because I have no...
They're all written by his son, and none of them are written by him. So,
Son and also Kevin J. Anderson.
Right.
Kevin J. Anderson. He's done some great stuff with the Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I actually do like him. I hadn't realized he was part of the of like a deal.
Yeah.
They're like the 3 direct prequels, the 3 House books, House Atreides, House Harkonnen, and House Torino. And then you have the further prequels with the Machine Crusade and the Volturian Jihad. Sandworms of Dune and Hunters of Dune are actually books that are set after Chapter House.
Right, which is the last batch here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like the Winds of Dune, for example, takes place after the first Dune and before Dune Messiah.
There's like 16, 18 books. And there just was a new release, I think, last week.
The graphic novel, remember?
But Navigators of Dune is the latest one as far as book-wise. And I think they're still making a couple more, but I'm not sure about that. So
actually, no, one just came out.
Which was what?
A new one just came out last week. What was it called?
It's like oh brother, I know it's about Leto, but I forgot the title of it.
Yeah, I forget.
So it does reference Dune, but it's about his time on Caladan.
I'm looking it up. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
So when the initial Dune movie came out, we had the equivalent of a graphic novel or a movie adaptation, but in a comic book form. Honestly, I don't remember these at all. So that's kind of cool if we ever find them in the bookstore.
I cannot take the David Lynch design seriously.
Probably in the top end.
Yeah, exactly. But there was only 3 that were adapted from the movie itself, and that was it.
And these look like they were inspired by the movie.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, the glowing Cry's knives, if that's what we want to call them, are not that shiny.
Chris knife.
That's false advertising.
Chris knife.
But what's good news is that we are going to get a Dune graphic novel that's coming out in hardcover very shortly, November 24th.
You're going to get it
your local library.
Unreal.
Are we pre-ordering
Hoopla.
Tell me we're pre-ordering that.
Gene, honestly, I have no idea if Hoopla will get this because it's kind of out of our hands. But as far as...
If you're a patron, you can recommend it.
Right.
Or forget that.
All right.
So,
and if we're not your library, if you're elsewhere, you can still recommend it to your local library.
Yeah. Because if nothing else, I know I will be ordering this for my branch. So, and I'm sure all of us will order it too. So I'm really excited about that being done for the graphic novel. But since the movie is not coming out in December, well, I'm hoping it doesn't really spoil too much about the movie.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, exactly. So now moving on, we have our first 12-issue comic series by Boom Studios, which is called Dune House Atreides. So we have the first issue out right now, and that's a variant cover. The other one is, I think, of Paul, if I'm not mistaken, on the cover. The second one will be out on November 25th, and then each month will be coming out. So the full one, I think, is coming out June 29th. So the hardcover edition of all 12 issues is not until June 29th. Moving on to games. Yes, believe it or not.
Which,
oh boy.
if any of y'all have like heard of these or played these, let me know. Either like raise your hand or put it in the chat.
I've played this.
This was my first time hearing about these.
I've played this once, and I got to be lucky because I played as the Fremen and won. I had no idea what I was doing against these experienced players, but I won.
That's every experience with tabletop games.
Yeah.
It's very extensive. I've watched people play the game, and I think if you were like the guild, it might be the Harkonnens.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into this.
want to be a Harkonnen.
It's too but it is maybe one of the better board games that really tries to kind of mirror what the universe is like in that book, because you do play the different houses and the gameplay is pretty interesting, to say the least. This came out in 1979. It was discontinued, but it was picked up last year in 2019, so there is a new Dune edition to play this.
This looks like the new game.
Not sure.
I think it is because the dials aren't red, like the little dial pieces that you put your chip into. So yeah, this does look like the new version because I watched a comparison video. So yeah,
Heather did her homework.
I get lost on the YouTube and fall in a black hole.
Heather, your dork side is showing.
Yeah. There was a guy that when I was trying to learn D&D on YouTube, he did a 3-hour gameplay on this just the other day that I was watching, and it's really interesting. So there's someone who recorded themselves playing this. So if you want to learn how to play.
So does it have like additional lore info?
By himself? No.
Yes, sorry. and you can backstab each other. It's a very
it's among us.
You know, the fun game for all family members. Backstabbing.
Exactly.
Can you tell if this person is lying? Are you going to give up this member of your team? What land? Essentially, you're trying to like take over the planet, and the planet is Arrakis. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So, cashing in on the great title and the great movie of Dune, we have actual Dune video games.
What?
Yeah.
They're like early 2000s video games.
Well, here's the first Dune cover you see is from 1992.
Or 90s.
Or 90s, if you want to be a 90s kid.
I want to be a Flintstones kid.
No.
1 million strong and growing.
No.
Oh, brother.
Thank you. Dune 2 came out in 1992. Can anyone guess when Dune 2000 came out?
2000?
Oh my God, you nailed it.
Actually, they were it was one of the early RTSs, or real-time strategy games.
Yeah.
That helped precede the genre. Oh, it was a lot of fun when I first played it.
Yeah.
Was there anything released in the year 2000 that wasn't like titled 2000?
Yeah, we did. The Emperor, out for Dune.
Yeah, right.
2001. So that one included 3D graphics and live action cutscenes. But I did not know about that. Now, the Frank Herbert Dune, the one that came out. Oh, you okay?
Yeah.
This one was modeled after the Sci-Fi Channel's miniseries.
Very good, by the way.
Which the miniseries is fine, but unfortunately, the company went out of business after making this game for Dune. And then the last one, it's not so much a Dune game, but it was a Dune mod for Civilization. So that was kind of interesting to see. Oh, do I have more people coming in?
Dun, dun.
Okay. So that one came out in, what was it? It doesn't give me the year, but that was the last thing of Dune that was related. So moving on. Why are you not moving on? There we go. All right. So,
ooh, action figures.
What?
The Book of Gene's Attention.
So.
Oh, that's the new one.
Yeah.
I recognize Timothy right front and center.
Charlemagne.
So what's kind of cool about this, those who know me know I have collect toys. Gene and I also collect lots of toys. But the person that I really like a lot, who does a lot of great toys, is Todd McFarlane, who is a comic book artist that is now doing fantastic toys. So he is doing not the whole line, but he's doing at least enough. I think it's only just the first wave. I hope there will be more, but each character will have a piece of another character, which is called Build-A-Figure. So these four will have pieces to build another figure, which I actually thought it was for the Baron Harkonnen, but it's not. It's for Beast Raban.
Beast Raban, yeah.
So you can get them at Walmart, but I think they're still not available yet until after Thanksgiving. They're running about close to like $24, $25 a pop. So just getting the four figures is going to be at least under $100. But you'll get a fifth figure once you buy all four and put that one together. So this is what counted for toys. Yeah, this is, in all fairness, now that you see this, you would want, if you were a collector, you would want to at least buy these just for the nostalgia of, okay, they were not the greatest figures, but you want to complete your set. What cracks me up here, and until you know this reference here, this is supposed to be Sting.
Yeah.
He also has in this box here a cat. And I'm not going to explain why the cat's in there, but it does show up in the movie, and it's like, what? What are you doing to the cat? But we have, here is Stilgar, leader of the Fremen. We have Paul Atreides. We have, oh my God, I just had his name.
Leto.
Huh?
Leto's on the left. Leto.
No, that's
right next to Paul. No? That's Stilgar? Okay.
Yeah, remember.
Leto. Okay.
That must be Stilgar.
Fade. There's the Baron.
Fade. Thank you. Lovely Fade.
Fade Ralpha.
And then we got not the floating fat man, but close enough. The Baron here. A soldier. And this is supposed to be the Beast Raban, because if you take off the helmet, it's him. But he has like an extra piece, an accessory there. And of course, the sandworm, which
Maker.
The maker.
The maker. See, Gene, that's how you
thank the maker. I'm sorry. I'm moving off. I'm sorry.
By the way, nobody get distracted. I'm just linking memes.
There you go. All right. So that is the end of my presentation, but I want to show you
a whole new world.
Yes, a whole new
world. Close your eyes. No.
Okay. All right. Can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Brian. Say hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
So I tweeted out to Brian when I was at South Date that I got all these books that I was going to link into our collection. I got really super excited. I'm like, he's not going to do anything with it. But he tweeted it out in a later post talking about how well Dune is really doing. And he gave me credit for the photo, which is at the Monster Sci-Fi show.
Yeah.
So I kind of geeked out at that moment. And I was like, okay.
Shout out from the author. Oh my God.
This, Brie Larson liking your tweet photo. You just
yes, Gene. I haven't told that story.
Amazing. Touches with greatness. That's great.
Because I have a thing for Brie Larson, but that's besides the point. And that's for another time.
Yeah.
No, we stand.
Thank you. But I think this is kind of cool that he acknowledged that, that Dune was still a thing and the movie hasn't even come out yet. And I would love, if possible, to reach out to Brian and talk to him. And if we get lucky, maybe we can all do like a Zoom call with him. That would be like the one thing I would love to do.
That would be the chance of a lifetime. I would really love to be part of that.
So
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Me 3.
so that's my little 2 cents there. So, and I'm going to be done now with my share.
Okay. So now I believe it's my time to shine. Let's start this. Okay. You guys see it now?
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah.
as I had mentioned, I got into Dune because I was introduced to the 80s movie, the wonderful adaptation, and then I spiraled and watched all of the shows. And so now what I'm going to attempt to do, break down the houses and some of the main characters that you'll see in the original, like as you're getting introduced to the book series. So first we have House Atreides. Their lovely flag, their falcon of red and green, and these are the main characters. Okay, first we're going to have Duke Leto, and he is Paul's father, and this is some fan art of how he was described to look. He's this troubled soul. He is your Game of Thrones Ned Stark. He's an honorable man. He's trying his hardest. And he's just trying to set a good example for his son. At the beginning of the books, we're introduced to him, and he's just this foreboding character. We know what's going to happen to him. He's told, don't go, don't be in charge of this other planet, Arrakis. Here we have him in the first movie, the one from the 80s, and he's got his like green uniforms. It's all taking place at night because Arrakis is a desert planet, so it's incredibly hot. And so they come out at like dusk to dawn. That's their time in the middle of the night. So that's why all of these photos appear a little bit dark and eerie. This is him from the mini series. He looks different here. He has like lighter hair, and then this is his current character who he's going to be playing
Oscar Isaac
in the new movie that's coming out next year now. And he
William Hurt and
looks incredible. I don't know if any of you remember the old 80s movie. He didn't wear socks, like a
hated it
as a character, and I really like the representation of how he's going to be portrayed.
And I just wanted to say something really quick, because like I said, I'm still rereading it. First time I read the first Dune, I was like 14, 15. But I find like the father figure and like the level of influence that he has and the level of love that he inspires from Jessica and Paul is very Ned Stark-like. But I wouldn't say he's a Ned Stark figure. I don't know if it's just like the way that I'm reading it the second time around, it comes across as a lot more cold to me. Like, I don't know, like easier, like it's a lot harder for me to like really understand where all this devotion comes from.
I feel like when you're reading it, he does come off as cold, but in this atmosphere, everything is being rested on his shoulder, and he's struggling for power. Everybody is putting so much pressure on him to, keep it together, to prevail for his house. He is head of House Atreides, and so much responsibility just weighs so heavily on him to have a son, to have an heir, to continue leading. And he basically he's told that it's probably a bad idea that he leave Caladan, which is his home planet, which is an oceanic planet full of like plants, and it kind of in more terms like represents Earth. And he decides to leave all of that behind and put all of his eggs in one basket and go to Arrakis, even though he's basically being told it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Bad things are going to happen. You're going to be with your enemies. And he actually has to take charge. I feel like in the new movie, we're going to see a better side of him where he's going to come off as a little bit more compassionate. But I feel like he had to be very strong and very firm and a little bit cold so that the harsh realities that he's being exposed to, his son is ready for them.
That's fair, because I do see his influence, and I also really believe that Jessica loves him. I'm just like,
Jessica, like,
I don't like him that much.
And she decides to like go, and that's our next character that we're going to get into. Lady Jessica, she is a Bene Gesserit. She's a concubine. She had all of this wonderful training. She basically she is in like an arranged marriage with Duke Leto. She falls in love with him, and he's like, I really want a son. And she was told and trained to only have a daughter. And she decides, no, I am so in love with this dude, I'm going to have his son. And then you can see her in the new 80s movie with her wonderful hairdos. She's like this beautiful image of like a bald woman, and it's just, her costumery is really great, I feel, for like the most outlandish type of headdresses and costumes. She's got smoky eyes. She really presents herself as like this regal character. And as we continue on in the TV show, she has like lighter colored hair. You see her in the background of the desert. She really struggles, so much angst with this character. And then in the new movie, I love the actress who is going to be portraying her. I feel like she sets the tone perfectly. Like her eyes just lock you in. And I'm going to be really, really sad. I feel like I really hope that this new movie coming out lives up to the hype. But yes, Lady Jessica was trained by the Bene Gesserit Society, who basically they're a century-long breeding program that is trying to make essentially like the Messiah. And they have seeded on this planet Arrakis through this religious teaching and doctrine through the Orange Bible, I believe, that Moadib, or Monty, help me.
The voice of the other world, Alan Gib.
I'm sorry,
Alan Gib, the voice of the other world. The voice of the other world, and that his mother would be coming with him. And there was the mission of protective up from the Bene Gesserit. Well, they've had thousands and thousands of years, but I mean, I'm getting into part of the territory if I continue. May I, or do you wish me to stop?
Well, we'll stop with that because next month we'll get into the heavy
breakdown of characters and what we think that they're going to be doing.
Yeah, shameless promo. This is like the first part of a series.
The introduction.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to lay the groundwork.
We're gonna get like really deeply into like the first part of Dune at our next meeting. So if anyone wants to sign up for that, just let us know.
Yes, we're gonna send you the information so that you can be hyped with us. Anyway, but like the Bene Gesserits also are very well trained. They have the weirding way in which they're able to control like the thoughts of, I'm really terrible at describing things, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I was just going to say quickly, I'll help. The Bene Gesserits have they've studied the mind and body for millennia. They are capable of controlling people, because they're able to understand exactly their nuances and everything else. They get imprints of them just by hearing them speak. And they're able to modulate the voices to work in an almost hypnotic manner.
And well, something that I want to point out that I think part of the reason why this book was always like such a favorite of my mom's and something that she put to me like from the beginning was like the utter, like the real level of power that comes from Bene Gesserit is like their complete autonomy, like to the point where they can decide, I'm gonna have a girl or I'm gonna have a boy, and then their influence on others. So like as a fictional group, they're kind of amazing.
Yeah, the way they see themselves, and they have so much badassery. When they go through these trainings, some of them are able to become Reverend Mothers, and they're able to see their ancestry. So they're able to envision and become more aware of what their ancestors did and how they got to where they are. So they know all these secrets and history from way, way back. Their grandmothers, they are able to see so far back in time. And this helps them have more understanding and knowledge to make better decisions. Some of them are put in lots of positions of power, which we'll see throughout the series, where they're advisors and they're suggesting tactics of, this is what you should be doing. Oh, that's a terrible idea. You really get to see how they just like where their mind is at and how they make choices. Yes.
This is only tangentially related since we're talking about aspects of the world, because Gary shared an article that I think is really cool. because it's breaking down the importance of the sandworms being the only alien species on this universe. And then it kind of ends, I'm going to quote it, but it says basically like the existence of these sandworms, like the existence of the alien species. The alien animals are the sole source of how humans make contact with alien animals. So it's, I don't know, I don't always pay attention to like aspects of world or aliens, but I'm curious in that reread that I'm going to do, like to see how that influences, because the planet itself, Arrakis itself, kind of like feels like its own entity because of the sandworms.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I feel like it really is. Arrakis is like when you first are introduced to the book, you think it's like an uninhabitable planet, and then you learn about how the sandworms produce the spice, which is an addictive drug that turns everybody's eyes blue, and if you stop taking it, you will probably, most likely, will definitely die. But how it enhances your mental
resources.
Oh yeah,
right.
And how everybody is hooked on it, and it's what fuels them for their travel, for their Mentants to have this trained ability. It's the spice.
The spice is the central cause of conflict within it, because it is the most valuable substance in the universe, as quoted within the movie and the book. The interplays between the houses are all because of who controls it, does control the universe. The Emperor's game, well, we'll talk more about that in the next episode, I suppose. But that's why Leo took the chance to take over. It's like he wanted to expand the wealth and power of his house. And of course, with Paul being the heir, he chose to make him his heir. And in a lot of ways, he's going, well, yes, I realize this is a trap, but I'm going into it with my eyes open.
Yeah.
Now, did that help at the end? That's for next time. The whole thing with the spice is that we have to introduce one other group in order to have this be understood. You have the Spacing Guild, and the Spacing Guild are those who control the monopoly on space travel.
Yes.
But they utilize the spice on launch to mutate themselves into navigators. They have the ability to be able to travel through space without moving. Almost, it's a form of teleportation.
Yeah.
But it uses precognition, which is very important in all the books. But again, I get ahead of myself. The spice, though, plays heavily into that. And it's also the geriatric spice. It gives you health while you still take it. That's why the Emperor, in a few moments, is 75, but he looks like he's 35.
Mm-hmm. It'll make you look will enhance fan.
Okay. Let's go on to the next slide.
Yes. Okay, this is our main character, Paul. Some wonderful clip art of him. This is who he's played by in the 80s movie, and then this is the TV show.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Here.
Oh, I forgot that actor's name.
Yeah, so Paul's supposed to be 15.
Yeah.
Which is why Timothy is a great choice.
Year-old. I feel like in the movie, not so much, or in the TV miniseries, but with the new adaptation, I feel like he more closely represents his character in the book as this, young adolescence going into manhood, and you really get to see his hero cycle of how he decides to basically come into power.
I also really like that he's like, even for his age, he's kind of described as like small and like thin.
Right. He's not for a child, he's not that strong. He's not
he's not some like 6 foot tall, like super ripped abs and biceps, like formidable opponent. He's just a kid. But skill and talent and all the training that his mother gave him like really go a long way in empowering him.
Yeah, and shaping. And when we watch the movie and we listen to the TV or listen to the books, we really see from his perspective. We're following his hero journey and seeing where he's going to lead us. Is he going to rise to the occasion? And
from what I've
we're
heard,
gonna
he
find-
suffers a lot.
Oh yeah, so much angst, and it makes it so great. It tastes so good.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have further in the book, in book 1, you will see his younger sister, Alia. And she is preborn, meaning in womb, she learns about all of her ancestry, her history. She figures out, you know, how she's just way too overexposed to everything, and how she's portrayed in the miniseries and in the movie. You see her kind of grow up in the miniseries, and it's really interesting. I won't give away too much on her character because we'll read more into it. Then we have Thufir Hawat. He's the Mentat and Master Assassin for House Atreides. We have some lovely fan art from Jodorowsky's film that was never made, and then some other fan art. This is how he looks in the movie. Caterpillar
Eyebrow power.
and he's got
Super caterpillar.
on his face.
I used to laugh at my father-in-law because he had those eyebrows. But I noticed as I'm getting on, I'm like, why are these growing like this? I'm like, I'm getting these big eyebrows like him.
It's a look. It's a look. You could be a master assassin, and we just don't know
Or
it.
do a massive comb over with the eyebrows.
Yeah, from the mini-series, you see like the character costumes, the crazy hats. We're gonna get into that. And in the new movie, we see a
I love that actor. I know.
The new movie is going to be so great, and we get to see how they evolve in character. We go from being portrayed by a white narrative, and now we're seeing people of color, which I feel like is very important because Arrakis is a desert planet. Where are the tans? Where are the people of color? Like the Arabic-inspired names, I was assuming we would have more people of color. So I'm really excited for a different take on some new actors and actresses.
I know she's coming up, but I love the casting of Zendaya. So
oh my god, I'm so excited.
So,
we're gonna get.
May I interject a little bit about the Mentats
Sure,
and why
yeah.
they're important? Okay. Well, Mentats in this universe are basically human computers because of what occurred in the past. There was something called the Baltarian Jihad, where humanity had to fight against AI, and humanity won. But they weren't. Since that occurred, these different schools opened, both like the Space Angels, the Bene Gesserits, and the Mentats.
Yeah.
And there are others, but I won't discuss them yet. But the main ones in the first book would be the ones that I just mentioned. The Mentats are used by the different houses for various uses. In other words, they're the ones who have to come up with conclusions based on logic, given all the information that they're able to obtain.
Yeah,
this plays an important part in the book.
Yeah, and basically there was this giant war over whether or not we should let robots or computers control us. And during this time, they decided that they did not want to have anything to do with that. So this is why this book is kind of a little bit interesting, because when we normally think about sci-fi, we think about like robots and technology and space travel. But in this book, there's a lot of importance on the fact that we wouldn't want the computer with the likeness of a human mind. And so we kind of see that in like Mentats are human computers. So they're able to do these intense calculations. And when we start reading, you'll find out that like Paul was originally supposed to be, and was in the middle of like training to become a Mentat. Okay. The next character we have is Gurney Halleck, and he's described as being a lump of a man, like really short and stout and kind of not attractive at all. And it's kind of interesting to see how he's portrayed in the movies.
Is that Sir Patrick Stewart? That is not a lump of a man.
No, not at all.
I'm so offended at the casting director.
So how they went from that description to Patrick Stewart, and they give us this, and he's just portrayed in his armor. He's a tribunal warrior, and it's just kind of lovely how we went from a lump of a man to
So you're saying Patrick Stewart walked so Thanos here could run?
Yeah. Basically, like a troll-looking man to this, and I'm just
not mad. I just wish they actually would like portray ugly people as ugly in movies, but it's Hollywood. I get it.
Well, he's a goodies forever. That's why.
Yeah, so it's quite fascinating, and all of these friends of Duke Leto, who he established these great connections with, he really marketed himself well. And he's so beloved. All these people are helping to train Paul so that he can eventually take over House Atreides. We have Duncan Idaho, who is master swordsman for the House Atreides.
Sword master of the Gnad.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's portrayed as different characters, and it's really interesting because to see how he might change. And he is being played by
Jason.
Momoa. Everybody has
that.
different opinions because I believe Momoa is a little bit like a California style character. I'm like, is he gonna play Duncan or is he just gonna be?
He's a good actor. He knows what he's doing.
I hope so. I feel like he did a really good job as Paul Drogo because he spoke a different language. Shh, don't talk.
He's good. He's good. He knows what he's doing.
Does anybody have an opinion about how?
Yeah, how do we feel about the casting choices so
like,
far?
what do you guys think?
My man.
The broiest Duncan.
Actually,
Broiest, yes.
I do like Momoa, but I always thought that someone a little bit more, I wouldn't say athletic, but more acrobatic would be how I'd always envision Duncan Idaho.
Like
the way
or limber.
The way Paul described him is like it's hard to copy his movements because he's so cat-like, as he put it.
Yeah, and
you can see that influence on Paul's fighting style. So, but you never know.
Yeah.
Because they're not about.
I'm hoping pleasantly surprised. I feel like he'll do a really good job. I'm hoping, like he'll. Okay, we have Team Momoa. Okay, and then we have Dr. Yui, and he is a scientist. Yes, I love Yui. His character is really complicated, and I really feel for him. And he's got his little diamond on his forehead. You see him in the TV show. He's like this side character, and I don't want to give too much away. And I love the character who's going to be playing him in the new movie.
Who's that actor? I don't recognize him.
I don't remember.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, look it up for us. Okay. Joe, would you help me describe?
Sure. It's the Sook School. Basically, they're the best actors in the universe, and that they're trained. The diamond on the forehead means that they're trained in that school, and that they are incorruptible, supposedly, that they can work on anyone, including and up to the emperor. So you're not supposed to suspect them for anything.
Yes, they have this great sense of like ethical obligation to uphold and be very, ethical. And it's very interesting what his character decides to do. But I feel like he was put under so much pressure to do what he did. And I'm not going to mention anymore. But they're supposed to be very, very ethical.
Yeah, no spoilers.
And now we're getting into House of like
we might have to. Yep, we might have to fast through it because we don't have 30 minutes.
Anyway, we're introduced to the Baron, who I feel like your stereotypical villain. This is where evil redheads came into like description. Like he's disgusting. He is your iconic, your stereotypical character that you make all these evil like tropes. He is your tropey villain.
I'm gonna say David Lynch got a little carried away.
Henry VIII, I am.
That's the whole problem I had actually with the Lynch movie, is that they didn't make the Baron complicated enough. They just made him yes, cartoon villain.
He's kind of.
I mean, at least the miniseries at least gave him intelligence to whatever else. So I always thought that the miniseries one was almost too refined, though. It's like the Baron did get his hands, although not dirty, but you could see that he enjoyed the aspects of his torture. This guy was a little too emotionless. I always felt that the best version of the Baron would probably have been a combination of the two. That you'd have some of that, I wouldn't say bravura, but more like some of that feeling of like, okay, no, something's not right with this guy. But at the same time, that he's intelligent, devious, cunning, and that you wouldn't want to leave your children with him.
Yes. Oh, definitely don't leave your children with him. And then you have his house. You have his twisted mentat, who we learn about, and I love
the
caterpillar eyebrows. I think it's a mentat thing where they just have the eyebrows. And now you're going to be introduced to Fade, one of my favorite characters ever, played by Sting in the 80s movie, and he just also with the red hair, very interesting.
I'm going to jump in before Heather goes on about the Speedo, which was a whole thing we had right there. Because Dion has to jump out, but I wanted everybody to say hi to Sylvia. She just jumped in.
Hi, Sylvia!
Hi, Sylvia. Oh, I
Sylvia
gotta go,
is
guys. Gotta be
Bye,
on desk.
Dion.
Bye-bye.
I'll be on the next session.
Okay. Well, we hope to see you next meeting, Dion. Thank you for
just saying hi to Sylvia because she's from Seattle, so it's like super early for her right now.
Good morning.
9 a.m. for you.
Morning.
The best part of waking up is to this thing we're doing on Zoom.
Spice in your cup. Okay.
The best part of waking up is to talk about the Speedo.
And then
So
we
go
have
ahead, Heather.
Fade, who is going to come into power as head of their arch rival House Harkonnen, and he's being, trained, and he is the nephew to the Baron. So we.
Hello. I forgot my water.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Zoom meeting. Okay.
I'm going to jump in real quick. The thing that in the Jodorowsky documentary, that character that he wanted to have, that Sting's playing, he wanted to have Mick Jagger as Fade.
Really?
Yeah. So it seems like it's like a rock and roll type.
I
so
think
like, who can you possibly have as Fade in the new movie? I don't know because they haven't announced it.
Yeah, that's why there's no
listed in IMDb. So I'm kind of curious why they're keeping this kind of hidden.
a secret. Yeah, we also don't know who's going to be playing Alia. So I don't know if we're going to see them in the second half.
I mean, Ali's a kid, so it'll probably just be like an up and coming actress. But this is what I'm curious. This casting specifically, because I was looking to see if there have been any kind of announcements and nothing.
Are we going to have another rock and roll character? I don't know. But I love the energy that brought to the movie, and
wouldn't Edward Shannon be like the guy that isn't he hot now? I don't know. Edward Shannon.
All right.
Okay.
So
yeah.
now we're introduced to the Beast, Raban, and I love
another favorite casting choice of mine.
I know. I mean, this is great. I love how I have words, but they're lost to me. This is great. I am just really in love with this.
That was well said. That was good.
But he's the enforcer for House Harkonnen. So just a picture all of your like evil tropes of like just he's your hitman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love how he also I love that he doesn't have hair in this one, because it was like, are all the villains gonna have like red hair? Or are they gonna?
I don't think you can give Batista red hair.
I feel like they're going to be taking a more serious adaptation, and I love how much space this character just takes up physically. He's just so intimidating. Okay. So now we have Shaddam.
Okay.
I love how he kind of does a whole lot.
Is that Tywin?
Yes, he reminds me a whole lot of Tywin. Just he is basically Tywin, and we do not know what he's going to look like in the new movie.
There's no casting yet.
Yeah, I think there's still
Public Shine version done before.
Do we know when does the new movie? At what point does it end? Have they said how much of the book it covers?
I think the new movie is gonna.
Parts.
What I imagine is that it's gonna stop when they drink the water of life and they take the party worm. That's my theory. I think they're going to split.
It'll be the first 2 books.
I don't think it's going to cover the first
I was thinking that it might close the
book
first
1 into 2 parts.
book 1.5, maybe 1.5.
Well, that would make more sense.
Okay, let's go. The next slide.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have Princess Irulan. She is the eldest
Princess
daughter
Irulan.
of and she is supposed to be like beautiful. I also feel like she's got tricks up her sleeve, and you get to see her with a lovely battle axe headpiece in the old movie from the 80s. Fun with Hats, that TV show had. I really highly recommend.
Do you wanna just jump to that part so that we don't miss it?
Yes. Okay.
I say jump to Fun with Hats because
Fun with Hats. Okay, we should pick up the speed. Okay,
Oh, I do love the Reverend Mother.
Reverend Mother, who is your wise woman giving wisdom and training. She basically is not super happy that Paul is in existence because Paul was supposed to be Paulette. And she's just like, Jessica, what did you do? I told you
original gender
not to do this. And so she's losing all of her power and control. And the Bene Gesserits are kind of not happy that Jessica betrayed them, but they're like, let's see if this guy is up to snuff, and we will find out in the next book. Okay, and then we have Chani, who is going to be Paul's future bae before anybody else. I love how like people envision her like enrobed in gold, very elegant, but very strong. She's a great character. I'm gonna love, and Zendaya is playing her, and I'm very, very excited. I feel like she's going to
really love the design of that suit.
Yeah, and she's just her still suit. It's so cool. No hair crimper, but she looks like she actually is in the desert. Her hair isn't like perfectly washed and groomed. She's got the spice eyes. I love how she's like holding onto her crysknife and she's like prepared for battle. She's on it. Yes.
Yeah, she's the original Spice Girl.
Yes, she's the original Spice Girl. Yes.
I didn't keep that meme, Monty.
Spice is coming.
It offended me.
And then we have Stilgar, and I love how like they look very tribal. We're finally like what I envisioned is someone who is going to be of like a different ethnicity, who is going to fully, he's leader of the Furman people. So I love, and when it came out in the 80s, I feel like it was all Caucasian actors and actresses. So
yeah, I think, and that's something that I'm going to be curious to see, like how it's reinterpreted and reanalyzed in the modern era. Because again, the book was written in the 60s, and when I read it, I had no real understanding of like how culture and even bias might have influenced it. But if you have a modern director and modern writers kind of looking back and then trying to say, okay, we can work with this, we can amend this, or we can acknowledge this. It'll just be interesting to see like how they take it, how they're respectful, both to like the book and whatever real life cultures influenced it.
Yeah. And from what we are going to understand in the book, the Atreides house with Paul and his father, Duke Leto, and Lady Jessica, and their house of warriors are going to be basically on this planet with their arch nemesis, and they befriend the Firmin tribe, which are the people of Arrakis. They live in the desert. They live in these wonderful, great tents, which I forget the name of. Do you remember?
They're sand people?
Yes, basically they are your
yes, they're sand people.
Okay, great.
For planet Arrakis. And we learn more about the culture through them and how they live. And we're introduced to a very important character, Leia Kynes, who is this planetologist for Arrakis, very paying a lot of attention to the sandworms or the makers that are there producing the spice, which is this addictive drug that everybody is following, and how this goes into. And it's lovely to see how it goes from a Caucasian actor or actors to being played by a woman. And I wonder how the storyline is going to change with this.
I didn't know about this casting either.
Gender and race swap. So it's going to be really interesting, but I don't feel like it's going to hinder the storyline too much. But
no, but it'll be cool to see what their reasoning was, what the implementation was.
Viewed in different ways in this book. And also, I feel like, great, we're finally getting some really cool characters.
And more ladies.
Okay, and that basically was my ending of my introduction, and then we have some lovely memes, or what I would like to call this thing in a Speedo. Oh yeah, it's in
you had to
watch.
Okay, actually,
just to see.
Are there people here who haven't seen that movie, David Lynch?
I vaguely remember it. I've seen it once a long time ago, and
oh my god, rewatch.
I have very little sober memories about it.
Okay, Gary hasn't seen it. Sylvia, have you seen it? You may be muted right now, but I feel like yes or no? Because I
haven't seen it before. I definitely have not seen that image. I think I remember.
Oh, there's more. There's more. Just wait.
More.
I love the campiness of the 80s film, and that started the catalyst for me of watching all the various adaptations that there were, and it just gets better.
But that's the thing. I don't think I could watch it at this point because I have some mental specific image of the book. I don't want to see. I don't know how I feel about this.
It's great. It's great to see what they did with it and how they envisioned it themselves. But I'm just like, why is Sting just doing this? Just being like, hello. And it's great. It's great. And then this was actually part of the 8 minute. You're just like, why? So many questions. Why, Patrick Stewart? Why are you riding into battle with the pug? It's like the family dog.
Did you find a really specific group who was writing fanfics?
Little pug.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, yes. It's fantastic. And then we, of course, have Alia. I have no idea what she's thinking. You can caption this if you will. She's just high on the spice, just carrying her Chris knife, I'm assuming, and just we're in for a treat. And then we have what I like to come to fun with hats. This is from the mini series that happened in the early 2000s, and the costumery, as you can see, is quite lovely. You're like, what is that on your head? Why do you look like a battle axe?
How was the
mix of
miniseries?
It's kind of a mix of Hunger Games and like Masters of the Universe.
Very true to the books, and I just love the direction, the costumery. That team must have had a ball with the show. And of course you have like Madame Butterfly.
She is very beautiful.
Not the Madame Butterfly I'm familiar with, but okay.
Oh my god. It's fantastic. Y'all should watch it just for the camp factor. So much. Birdman, again, more hats. It's just so great.
What?
I know so much. What and
Somebody
why?
give me a bowling ball. Okay.
Like heads.
Oh, no.
Oh my god! Just have that burned into your retina, and that ends and my PowerPoint. All right.
Okay. Nice. Very nice.
Okay. Thank you.
So for those of you who are, Dion left, but for those of you who are total newbies, did we talk you into reading the book?
Or at least
we'll find out on November 26th when I return with a lot of questions and like.
Yeah, Gene.
The names of these damn people. What is this?
That's the problem.
There's a Paul guy, and then that's a normal name, and I don't know. And houses. I think if I do a family tree with the houses. The names of the characters, that'll help me.
It's no different from like with Game of Thrones and how
you pick it up.
Like know these people and then they get killed off. So I'm like,
well, but also like the more you talk, like the more you read it, the more you kind of remember it. So again, I'm gonna keep putting Sylvia on the spot because I know her. The few times that we had started reading Game of Thrones or talking about Game of Thrones, I think it took us like 2 solid years before we knew people's names. So it was like, oh, it's that guy, or it's dude with the hand. Like, don't worry about names. Names are
well, since I've been called out, I would argue that I actually don't remember any names. I just happen to get through the book just fine. Like, oh, it's the guy with the hair, or it's main character guy, or it's antagonist guy. I don't know any other names, but I function somehow.
And actually, when I pitched this to Sylvia, she was like, well, I don't think, like, I read it so long ago, I don't think I remember it. And then she summarized the entire book, start to finish, plot point by plot point. And I'm like, you remember it.
There weren't any names in that summary, though.
No, that's true. She was like, well, this happens, and then, like, Messiah.
Yes.
Should I watch the David Lynch movie first or the Sci-Fi Channel movie before getting into the novel? Would that help me give context or representations of characters in my mind, do you think?
Have a great laugh. I do think the mini series that doesn't want to show up.
I see it. Got it.
It is. It covers book 1 and 2, and I feel like the mini series is very true to the book series. So if you want to,
we won't judge if you don't. I mean, I really do think the writing of the book itself is very interesting and very intriguing. You might want to try the audiobook if that hasn't.
I've tried it once. It was good for me. I tried it, but I don't know. Maybe sitting down and watching the movie again with the new interest. Again, strength in numbers. So you all like.
We could watch the extended David Lynch version if you want to sit down for about 6 hours.
Yes. We can have an all day. I'm for all the film adaptations.
Okay.
Okay. We'll see what we can do.
You want to show the last bit or little memes to end on a.
That's on you, Monty. I said that to you. He made me put this together this morning.
Well, I don't have it set up on my computer here.
These are curated memes. It's on the. Let me see.
Yeah, but I don't have Teams. I'm on.
Okay, fine. Make me mod. I'll do it.
Make me work. Make me click a dozen times.
Yes. Make me do my job.
So a lot of these memes are either references to the movie itself or just in general situations that I'm like, okay, in the context of what's going on today is funny. That is just enough to kind of like, once you understand the movie and such, it should be kind of cool.
I mean, I think my favorite ones, but you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
We see it.
All right, so now down to the real business. This way. So we got to start with the classic. What's in the box?
Okay. Yes. What's in the box?
Which my favorite is the middle one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Because I can try to imagine putting your hand in a box with a very frightened cat, and I too would just scream my head off.
Yeah.
Very iconic.
Then does this remind you of anything? Oops. Which Monty had a lot of these.
George Lucas one, I think, is my favorite of the bunch here.
No, I think my first one is involves a desert planet, an evil emperor, a boy with mental powers, galactic destiny, and is the most original sci-fi work of all time. Star Wars. No.
Yeah.
And then I ended up including that Highlander one at the corner because I don't. Does anybody here a fan Highlander?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. If you haven't seen it, and I'm again talking mostly to Sylvia, I'm going to force you to watch it.
I don't know which.
You'll love it. Don't worry about it. Don't you worry about it.
It's just the first movie.
Yeah, just the first movie. Although I've heard this TV show isn't that
The TV
bad.
show is great. The show is
Okay.
great.
It certainly was.
Okay, so don't watch the sequel.
Not my own.
Then there's Always Relevant. So that we can see Dune's influence into the modern era.
Spice was a little.
Oh, gosh.
And then
Controls the universe.
there was a barista meme in there that I didn't include. I should have. I should have included barista.
Pumpkin spice.
And I think I only have one more. Oh no, this was like for book nerds. Has anyone tried to read Blood Emperor of Dune?
Not when we got that far.
Which one is
So-
it?
Let me
I
check.
will. Yes, I've read it.
Actually, is it hard to get through?
I'm looking forward to rereading it. I've started the series again, but no, it wasn't. It was mind-blowing, but it wasn't that hard to get through.
God Emperor of Dune is
third book.
The fourth or the third?
Book 3? No, wait. Yeah, Dune, the Messiah, Children of Dune, then yeah, the first 4.
Okay, I don't know if I'll get that far. I'm gonna try. And then let's see, the last one. This is just fun with memes. I ended up including
you missed one of my favorites though. You did miss one of my favorites. That one was Gordon Ramsay yelling at the other cook. You put
it in there. Rebecca didn't put it in there.
I'm sorry.
Share your memes with us in the chat.
Yes, link them in if you'd like.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I guess I'll leave it at the screen there.
Right.
But yeah, thank you to everyone who showed up. I hope you're all thinking of joining us for the next one as well.
Yeah, we're going to
yes, definitely. This is a lot of fun.
Okay.
What chapters are we going to be reading for the next book club meeting? Is it chapter 1 through 15?
It's whatever
It
book
doesn't
one
really
is.
have a chapter.
Yeah, Monty said just book 1. I'm like, all right.
Yes.
324 pages. Woohoo!
If you have this copy, it covers until page 324, and then you hit part 2 or book 2. I should say. So if you want to join us for that, we're going to be having that actual in-depth discussion on November 21st, Monty, or
Yes. It's the last Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
Be there. And you can download the audiobook from our resources, or you could read the ebook. We have it on Coupa, we have it on Access, and I believe we have it on Overdrive.
Yeah. And if everything goes well and we get through this into the new year and we're done with this series, we can do one or two things. I would love for us to kind of continue this group to do the first 6 novels of Dune, or pick up another sci-fi series like Asimov's Foundation series, for example.
Yeah.
But again, let's just see how we feel, and hopefully this year will come to a better ending than it started for all of us. But,
maybe we can all meet together and see.
Yeah. Exactly. And then we can do this in person too. That's the main thing. That'd be really awesome to do.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
So I had a blast doing this, and I'm really happy to do this with all of you guys. So thank you.
Likewise.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you
for joining us.
All right, guys.
I just have to make one last note before everybody goes.
Yes,
the reason that you hear a Pink Floyd song in the new trailer, the trailer, was also shout out to Jodorowsky. He was going to use Pink Floyd to create the soundtrack for his movie. So it's sort of a little a slight wink at that.
Yeah.
But I just thought it fits so well.
It does. It really does.
I love the Easter eggs.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. See you soon. Take care, guys.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. So hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast, and I'm grateful that you've made it this far. But what I am planning to do, even though that this podcast was just strictly audio, since we did have a presentation, as Mr. Gene kind of mocked, I will try to do an enhanced version of having this audio plus the presentation locked together, which I'll notify you guys when that's available on YouTube. So it helps a little bit more visually to see what's going on and what we're talking about. And we'll do that also for the book club editions as well. But for right now, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Remember to follow me on the various social networks. You can always email me at monsterscifishow@gmail.com. So again, thank you for listening to me and to the Monster Sci-Fi Show. It's sci-fi from a certain point of view. Good night.
Attention, people of Earth! Looking for a way to kill half an hour every week?
Try the Flopcast. It's a silly podcast about cartoons, music, comics, movies, obscure pop culture from the 70s and 80s, and chickens.
Join us! Bring coffee!
We're on the ESO network.
and we're at flopcast.net.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.